In today's podcast, we have American entrepreneur John Hewitt. He's a legend in the tax world. He's actually founded multiple companies and sold them for hundreds of millions of dollars. He's the CEO of Loyalty Brands, which is an umbrella company that buys and sells franchises. And currently, he's the CEO of ATAX. He founded Jackson Hewitt. He's an expert in the tax industry, and he's going to tell us a lot about his story and how he became so successful. I hope you guys enjoy it. What would you say is your definition of success and kind of the formula that you follow to get there?
When I was a kid, teenager, I thought I was cocky, and even though I was poor, I knew I was going to become a millionaire and I'd make a few $1 million and retire. And along the way, I found that it's the treasure at the end of the rainbow is anticlimactic. The journey is the joy. So our mission statement is having fun, improving lives. And so I define success by the number of lives I improve. I've already created 1,000 millionaires.
That's got to be
and I have over 5,000 franchises with hundreds of thousands of employees.
I love the idea that you had an initial goal that was kind of giving. I mean, if there's one thing, yeah, we're live, we're ready to go. Thank you for welcome to the show. But one of the things that I called to me from I Compete was, you have a chapter on loyalty and you have a chapter on giving. It feels like the entire book has this order, right? Like set the standard of what it is you're going to do, work your ass off, have fun, give back, right? It's those things. And I don't know if that's kind of, I guess, the way you would formulate that success for you, but it seems like giving is probably the biggest thing for you.
Not only is giving is great in two major ways. Number one is you can't outgive God. So the more you give, the more you got.
Amen.
So I was just totally, the more I began giving as I got wealthy, I mean, it's never returned by the person I gave it to. It's something else good happens to me. So number one, I get more than I ever give. And number two, it's so rewarding.
Yeah. And
you're not appreciated by everyone. In fact, sometimes my own children don't appreciate me, but 80% of the people aren't appreciative, but the 10 or 15 or 20% that are, they way make up for the people that aren't appreciative.
That's cool. And then making over 1,000 millionaires. I've always said I like having rich friends and I like to solve rich people problems. What's it like to have 1,000 friends you've made millions of dollars for?
It's incredibly rewarding. And it's not only changing that one person or that one couple, but it changes generations.
Yeah.
I mean, they have children and they pass on the wealth to their children or the business.
Correct.
And then they pass it to their children. So it's generational. And even the ones that don't have children or even some that do have children, they pay it forward.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's world changing. I saw Elon Musk about a couple months ago being interviewed, and he said he's the number one changer in the human race. Since Jesus Christ, he's the number one changer of humans' lives.
Yeah.
And I thought about it, maybe he is with PayPal and Tesla and SpaceX. Yeah. I can imagine how he feels.
Yeah, but it's interesting how a visionary's mind is always for the greater good. I feel like you guys have that in common. You and Elon it's almost the competitive aspect of how many lives can I impact through my lifetime, right? It's the ripple effect.
Absolutely. It's making a difference.
This episode of The Formula is brought to you by Axel Maximus, a family office focused on helping athletes create generational wealth. Because greatness is earned, but wealth is mastered. This personally impacted me about you and your story is, you seem to be inspired by your parents. Actually, you dedicated the book to your parents. And I think through your life, I remember this actually from Virginia, where you've done this a few times before. and you're quite good. You're quite good at it, right? And one of the things that I always think about is great people are always inspired by their parents, especially fathers. I think fathers are underrated. I think everyone loves their mom, the majority of people, but inspiration can come from a father. But also, all shitty people have been inspired by their fathers too, because of their lack of presence or something. So, what was that growing up? What was that relationship like? Where you were inspired by your parents to be who you are?
Yeah, I was a rebel, and I always fought with everyone.
Okay.
I'm always very contentious in the sense that my teachers all hated me because I would always argue. And one of the things that's different about me than other people is when you tell me something, my first thought is, why isn't that true? Now, I don't know if I do that just to argue or I'm just a pure skeptician, but I would argue with the teachers. And I fought with my dad tooth and nail while I was a teenager.
Okay.
So my mom was, so my parents were very different. One was, my dad was cold and Russian, and my mom was the opposite. She would cry when she was happy, cry when she was sad, cry just because, telling us she loved us every minute. I mean, my mom, I have one warm parent and one cold parent.
Nice. So that probably brought nice balance to your life.
I've been happy with it. About 30 years ago, one of my employees lost their father. He was prematurely. He was about 50.
Ooh.
And I said, did you have any regrets? And she said, yeah, there was things I wish I had told him. And so I sat down and I wrote a letter to each of my parents and said, I know you're proud of me. I'd already built $1 billion company, and they prospered both economically, and it worked in the company. And they just saw the national acclaim. I said, no, you're proud of me, but I owe it all to each of you for different reasons, right? They each had their things, traits that I learned from them. And I was fortunate they lived so long that 20 years later, I got to write them a second letter and update my letter. So yeah, it's they both had their major influences, and together I arrived in a very, very good place.
That's beautiful, man. Thank you for sharing that. I think Randy and I are both very inspired by our parents, and hearing other people's stories about their inspiration from their parents, I think is very powerful. Right now you mentioned 30 years ago, and it's easy to forget you've been at this game maybe two lifetimes.
55 years.
Incredible, man. Congratulations. Years, right. But when I hear it, I'm like, dude, how are you, like, what's your day-to-day like that you kind of still, you're probably stronger than ever now, and still have the hunger to grow and to do it a third time around. Like, what's that like?
Yeah, most people want to retire, and most people get complacent. I don't have that gene in me. When I was a kid, I thought I'd get rich and make a lot of money and retire. But then I realized, what would I do? There's nothing more rewarding than changing lives and improving lives. I saw Denzel Washington, the great actor, he was doing a graduation commencement speech. Mm-hmm. And the last thing he said, he shocked me initially. He said, the most selfish people in the world are those that help others. And I said, what? And he said, because they're so happy. Because they're so happy. And right now, I'm 75 years old. I'm at the peak of my wisdom and knowledge and capabilities. And if I just go sit on a beach, what a waste to the rest of the human race. Right. You know, I'm out every week changing lives and giving guidance and making our country and the world a better place. And I think it's it's biblical. To whom much is given, much is expected.
Amen. And I appreciate you constantly bringing God into the picture too. I think that's probably part of that big wisdom that you're referring to now. But one time you were 40 years old. So as a 40-year-old, I ask you, what do you think you could go back and tell 40-year-old John now with your wisdom, with what you got?
You know, that's another way I'm different than other people. I don't ever do what ifs. What if this or what if that? And if I had done something different, then I make, they say people that are the most successful have made the most mistakes. And I believe that. I made every mistake. I'm 35 years older than you. I made every mistake. You can't even imagine all the mistakes that I've made that you haven't even thought of yet. You can't think of anything that I haven't tried in this industry for sure.
Yeah.
So I've just made so many mistakes. My general advice to everyone is find something that you love to do, you're good at, and work hard and persevere.
Gotcha.
And life's too short. I invented, thank God it's Monday. If Monday morning today's Monday, if Monday morning you're going to work and you're not looking forward to it, you're going to the wrong place.
Correct.
Right? So it's not thank God it's Friday. If it's thank God it's Friday, you're in the wrong job. My job isn't a job. It's a hobby and a job. It's everything.
It's like your lifestyle. This is what you do.
It's a vocation and avocation. So find something you love to do. Everything worthwhile requires hard work, and perseverance is the number one secret to success. I've never seen anyone that didn't get knocked down. Everyone faces adversity. Yeah. And the winners just get up every time and keep going.
They get good at overcoming it, right?
Exactly.
That's incredible. And it resonates a lot with me at 40. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I think about, most people that listen to our podcast and whatnot, they're probably mostly my age. And we're all now in those bigger hits. Life just, as it goes along, the hits kept getting bigger and bigger, right? What would you say was the biggest hit? I'm thinking 1995 because I read the book, but what do you think has been like the biggest punch for you and how you got out of it?
Yeah, there's, when I started Jackson Hewitt, for 15 years, we got along, the board of directors and I, and everything was unanimous vote. And I built a company that was worth $500 million, almost $500 million. And then the IRS in 95, unless you were in the tax industry, almost everyone would be oblivious of this, that the IRS almost destroyed the industry. It was so bad that H&R Block, which had never had a decrease in profit of more than a few $100,000, lost $100 million.
Wow.
Decrease from the previous year. And Tom Block, the last remaining Block family member, resigned on April 9th of 1995. His father Henry and his father's brother Richard had built the company. They had already left the company, and Tom Block resigned that. And so our venture capital is decided to use that opportunity. Well, what happens when you're in venture capital? You suspect that and because it almost always happens, the entrepreneur doesn't grow with the company. Yeah. The company outgrows the entrepreneur. So when you invest in a company as a venture capitalist, private equity, in the back of your mind, you're going to get rid of that guy.
Yeah, at some point it's coming.
Right. So they chose that opportunity to try to steal the company.
Wow.
So that was a huge disaster and ended up leaving the company as a result of that. So 15 years later, not a bad investment. We raised in August of 1982, we raised $129,000, and 15 years later sold it for $483 million.
Wow.
So that wasn't a bad investment.
That's a fantastic investment.
And then so that was entirely caused by exterior forces, right? That wasn't a mistake that I had made. Looking back, the only way I could have done different was not to have taken venture capital.
Got it.
Then I wouldn't have had that problem. But I made the mistake again. It took more venture capital when I started Liberty. And now this time for 20 years, we got along. Every director meeting is unanimous. Everything's going good. And then we had problems. The industry was changing. That back in the early 21st century, people could get a loan on their refund.
Right.
And so 10 to 15% of our business would come in just to get a loan on the refund.
Ooh.
Well, the IRS destroyed that, or Congress did.
Okay.
And the IRS and Congress, they destroyed that industry. And so you couldn't get a loan on your refund anymore. So about over 10% of our customers were driven by the loan to pay us. And now they went to TurboTax or do-it-yourself or lower cost providers. And so the industry was hobbled for many years. And we took a hit during that period. And again, the venture capitalists came in and my venture capitalists came in and tried to take the company. Now, it was way messier the second time because after my experience on the first time around, I learned.
Yeah.
And so at Liberty Tax, I had controlling shares. So they couldn't take over because I got to vote for personally for one more director than everyone else did. So they made it really, really messy though. And so those were, it was a $500 million company. I'd done it twice. Jackson Hewitt went on to become a $1 billion company. So I founded a $1 billion company, $500 million company. I'm the only person that's founded 2 of the top 100 retail chains in the country. But each time it was caused by the industry fluctuation that hurt the company, and it was a civil war.
Yeah. And it takes a special kind of person to not just take on the challenges of being an entrepreneur and a business owner, but as you've mentioned twice, taking on your own people, right? Your own investors or your own board of directors and stuff like that. I've unfortunately been in a similar situation. I can understand how there's a loyalty factor there. There's a personal factor there, especially after 15, 20 years where you've built friendships and relationships for a long time. And then, kind of money and
not only have I made them a lot of money. I mean, not only have their friendships, but I made them hundreds of millions of dollars.
Correct.
Right. So on small investments,
right.
The total investment was under 20 million and it was worth $500 million.
Incredible. And there's definitely a formula there, something that you figured out and you do consistently well. Then there's the loyalty thing, the giving back. So it seems like, when I hear you speak, you're entering this third time around, having been punched and getting up, but also learning the lessons so that, they don't catch you with the same combo, if you want to put it that way. When it comes to this third time around, what's the thing that's most different for you?
Well, each of the first times I only had one brand, one company. And this time we have 3 different divisions. Okay. I'm back in tax. I've just completed my 55th year. So I have tax and with tax, we've added accounting and we have insurance partnership. It works the best auxiliary business I've found in my 55 years to add to income tax is insurance.
Makes sense.
And so so that's one division. Mm-hmm. Secondly, we have a construction division where we do our number one company in construction is roofing. So we're into roofing. And thirdly, and this is going to be my third top 100 chain in the country, and no one else has done it more than once. And it's Zoom and Grooming, mobile grooming. It's growing incredibly. We're less than 3 years old. This next month will be 3 years old. And by the end of this year, one great thing about mobile grooming is there's no national name.
Right.
I've been competing with H&R Block for 42 years.
Incredible.
And never got to number one. I mean, my 2 chains got 10,000 offices, So there are 9,000, but neither one got to be number one. And I'm fiercely want to be number one. But by December, we'll be number one in mobile grooming. And we'll be, within 5 years, we'll be a national household name.
That is awesome.
It's called Zoomin' Grooming.
Zoomin' Grooming. What led you to pick pet grooming and the construction?
It's sort of like with tax preparation. I've seen changes I was a chess player since I was 9 years old. So I think that helped me have vision. So my dad and I invented in 1981, we invented the first tax software for an Apple computer.
Okay.
So we computerized tax. And I've made changes. And then about 15 years ago, I saw that in income tax preparation, the Hispanics were growing rapidly. And so now our taxes, we do both, and we're good in non-Hispanic tax, but H&R Block and Jackson Hewitt and Liberty are not good at Hispanic tax.
They're not going after that niche.
Right. So they're poor at it. So it's the fastest growing part of the business. And so they're all fighting for the business part of the business that's not growing. And the Hispanic portion that's growing by 7 or 8% a year is they're like, okay, John, you can have it. Awesome. I feel like sending them a thank you card. But especially, I didn't really wake up until COVID, and I saw a couple of changes that are major changes in society, and that is pets have become, they used to be just animals. Mm-hmm. Now they're part of the family. Mm-hmm. And not only do some 20, 30, 40-year-olds have pets instead of children, but when they survey parents who have both pets and children, 2/3 of them like the pet better than their children. So, that's kind of the only dog's like almost the only unconditional love you can get, right? Yeah, exactly. More than your spouse. I love the joke about you put a dog and you put your dog and your wife in the trunk of the car, okay, and you drive 5 miles, and you open the trunk. Your wife is going to kill you. Right? If she had a gun, she'd blow your head up. Right? She'd knife you. She's going to scream at you. The pet is like, oh, happy to see you. The dog's all happy looking you and all happy. So it's and in addition to that, during COVID, there was a change in the mentality of Americans. I don't know if it was because of COVID or just the timing.
Okay.
But 10% more households got pets.
They did.
Because they were all home and they wanted company.
Yeah.
Right, lonely. So, yeah, I noticed it and said, and the pet business has more than doubled in the last 4 years. And over the next 4 or 5 years, it's going to double again. Mm. And the amount of people that are spending on their pets is just growing incredibly amount. So I've been in the tax business for 55 years. That's grown 1 or 2% a year. Or I could go after pets that it's growing double digits, 12, 13, 14% a year.
It's pure vision. It's pure vision and data driven, which is, I love it. Very similar. I can appreciate that. The one thing is that you can see kind of around the curve what's coming. And after 55 years in the biz, you've had, depressions and Black Fridays and Mondays, Black Mondays, and all kinds of situations.
5 recessions, including the worst one.
5 recessions,
right? And
COVID and wars, and Mm-hmm. So I think, would you say that those moments are the ones where you seek opportunity?
It's easier to gain market share during bad times than it is during good times. When things are good, they say, high tide lifts all boats. Mm-hmm. When it's low tide, that's when you can grab market share. And for a lot of reasons. Companies get knocked out of business. Yeah. And you gobble them up and you grab their market and add pennies on the dollar. So, it's our growth was bigger during tough times. In fact, in the Great Recession, which was 2008, 9,
Mm-hmm.
Liberty Tax grew by over 700 locations. We were the #1 fastest growing company in the United States. Starbucks closed 650 locations.
Wow.
Because during a recession, you don't have to buy a fancy cup of coffee.
Right.
You don't have to buy a new car or a new refrigerator or a new TV, but you do have to file your taxes.
Right.
So we grew, we continue to grow rapidly during the Great Recession.
That's really cool. And you start thinking about the current state of where things are right now. And we can go down a huge rabbit hole of the many things that are happening, but it's certain that there is uncertainty in the economy. And you're a franchise expert. This is basically like your life business model. Would you say from a entrepreneurial standpoint that it makes a lot more sense to go into franchise over opening your own brand or your own company? And like, how do you see that?
Well, remember, I've been doing it for 55 years. Yeah. So I've seen all the ripples and effect. And, 55 years ago, before I started, I would have thought that during a recession, it wouldn't be a good time to bring in new franchise. But it's opposite. What happens during recession, people get laid off.
Right.
And a lot of people who are in their 40s or 50s are approaching retirement, and they don't have retirement, and or they were surprised after 5 or 10 or 20 years at a company. They were laid off. They said, I want to seize control of my future. So the best time to sell franchises is during a recession, because all these people get laid off. Some get severance, and they say, I don't want my future to be controlled anymore. And by the way, in a franchise system like ours, you build equity, and building equity is the secret to wealth building in our country. If you look at the Forbes or the Fortune 500 richest people in the world or the United States, it's all business owners, right? It's not the great athletes. They have hundreds of millions, but the billionaires,
they're rich, they're not wealthy.
They have the Walmarts, right? The Microsoft, the Mars Candy family. Yeah. Those are the rich people that made it from owning businesses. And so it's actually recession times are great to be in the franchise business.
Yeah. And the way you formulated it for franchise owners is not only do you have the short-term benefits of owning your own business and control, but you can have the long-term benefits of being part of a bigger picture, which is, I think, what you're bringing up.
Exactly.
That's really where, this comes from wisdom and figuring out, the best way to do it. I have this thought on, and you have such a, long-term view of things. I have this thought on people having success at their craft and being kind of product centric and not necessarily learning how to, expand their minds or their finances or, their investments. How do you see that? You've made hundreds of millions of dollars in your career and you continue to bet on yourself, but I'm sure you've learned how to see bigger pictures in real estate or different things. How do you see that?
I think if you're talking about growing companies, for example, right? And many people are incapable of changing industries, right? Because they're, as you said, their success is based on product knowledge, industry knowledge, experience, name, reputation, whereas a great leader is a developer of people and can develop people to run any company in any industry. I feel like, right now we have, as I said, we have 3 different divisions, and we're only a few years old, and COVID hit us right at the bad time too, 3 years ago, right? But we've rebounded well off that. ATAX, our tax division, is in the top 10% of all franchises out of the 4,000 franchises in the country. We're in the 10% fastest growing. Our CR3 roofing we're just less than 2 years old. We're in the top 10% of 2-year-old companies. And our Zoom and Groom is in the top 1%. Top
That's really
25 fastest growing companies out of 4,000 franchisors. We're not even 3 years old. We're 35 months old yesterday. And 35 months old, and we're already in the top 1%, top 25 of every franchise. That includes Subway and McDonald's and H&R Block and Jackson Hewitt. And we're my team and my expertise can do it in any industry.
Yeah, and I could see how it translates, right? You're basically it's almost as if you grab the learning lessons of tax franchises and you said, what else can I apply it to where there's tremendous growth and opportunity? So when I think about people looking to invest in a franchise, it's not just about the brand you're buying into or the product that you're going to embark into, but also who is the partner that's going to bring it. I think franchising, lots of franchises fail. I think most of them fail. And when you look at what it is that they do, is they're giving you a series of rules and standards that you should follow. And the ones that have it figured out the most is the ones that are going to be most likely to be successful, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In every industry, there's a category of best in class.
Right.
I think just several industries to think about, right? If we think about cola, it's Coke and Pepsi. If we think about cereal, it's Kellogg's. If we think about soup, it's Campbell's, right? If we think about department stores, it's Walmart. So there's a best in class. And so that company, who's ever best in class, is going to win. And it's very, very hard to go against a huge company like a Kellogg's or a Campbell's or an H&R Block. If David had gone onto the field with the same sword and armor and shield as Goliath, there would be no David and Goliath story. He'd be the 189th guy killed by Goliath. So you have to have differentiators. Yeah. So we have differentiators, and many of our differentiators go across all industries. In Made in America by Sam Walton, he said, you don't just learn from your competitors in your industry. You learn from every consumer experience. So we have things we do better than in each industry, better than everyone in the industry. But there's some things we do better than everyone in the country. Yeah. And now that you should be skeptical of that, but I can give you I can give you one simple example.
Would love that.
On the way here from the airport, I passed, how many businesses did I pass? Thousands?
Thousands, easily.
Right. Yeah. So if you're passing thousands of businesses, how many do you think I'm going to remember?
Less than 1%.
Less than, right. But if there's a Statue of Liberty or an eagle character, human being dancing on the street, and they're there from January through April, are you going to remember that business?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's novel. Now, others used to do it. McDonald's, you're not old enough, but back in the 50s and 60s, there was a Ronald McDonald. There was a Burger King. There was a little Wendy's with her. She had a red-haired wig on and a dress. And so they used to do that, but now we're the only ones doing it.
So you kept the one element of what worked back in those days that everybody kind of abandoned, and it went from being the common to the differentiating factor, huh?
Yeah, think about it. In Miami, do you know the population of Dade County?
3 million.
3 million. Okay, so there's about 10% businesses per people in this country. There's about 330 million people and 32 million businesses. So that means if there's 3 million people in Dade County, there's 300,000 businesses trying to get your attention, right? Trying to get my attention, right? And they're doing everything: TV, radio, newspaper, billboard, newspaper, social even media. Yellow pages. But most of it's social media now, right? But they're all coming after us. Mm-hmm. But how many of those 300,000 businesses had a a human being dressed in a costume waving in front of their store, right? In Dade County, it was only one company.
Incredible.
So we're 1 in 300,000. So you have to have your differentiators. If you do what everyone else does, it's going to cost you a lot more money to get a customer. Our cost of customer acquisition in each of our industries is lower than anyone. We get new customers for less expense because we have in the tax industry, which I'm the most expert at ever, after my 55 years, we have 17 or 18 things we do better than our competitors.
And I love
better
that you
than
know
H&R
that, man.
Block.
I love that you know how many more things you're better than anyone else. It's almost as if the degree of confidence that comes from doing things over and over again repeatedly, it goes beyond, people, thinking that you might be, showing off about it. It's more like, I am confident that this is the case. And
I can prove it to you. It's not we offer better service, because if you called on up the CEO of H&R Block and said, who offers the best service? You say he does. If you called Jackson Hewitt, who would offer the best service? They do. Yeah. If you called ATEX, they do. So it's objective things like having a costume character. Here's another one. We have 17 or 18 things we do better than Block and Jackson Hewitt and Liberty. Another one is, you've been in the tax business, I think, or know of the tax business.
While,
Well, in the tax industry, if you've never been in the industry, and most of your listeners probably haven't, there's 15 weeks. It's January 1st to April 15th. But it turns out you do most of your business in just 4 weeks, right? There's two kinds of customers: people that want their money fast and they want it yesterday and they've already got to spend, and then the rest who either don't get a refund or don't care, and they're gonna have to procrastinate.
Yep.
So they have to wait till April. It's American. It's anti-American to not procrastinate. You have to procrastinate. So we only have 4 weeks.
Right.
So let's say you have an office doing a round number, 1,000 returns. It's going to do 600 during 4 weeks, and then 400 the other 11 weeks. So you're going to, the slow time, you're only going to be doing 30 a week, and the busy time, you're going to be doing 150 a week. So you better be doing things different.
Yeah.
I loved driving by an H&R Block office at 8:30 or 8:45 in the morning and seeing customers waiting outside, because they're like a bank. They don't open till 9 o'clock.
Right.
Well, if you're an owner of a franchisee, you're going to open your door and let them in. That's your lifeblood.
That's revenue.
Their company, you get to compete with company employees who follow the rules. And then at 5 after 9, there's a knock on the door. And Block has locked their office at 9 o'clock. Right. And they say, they don't even get up out of their seat. Come back tomorrow.
It's like a bank. Yeah.
What would you do? I mean,
go to Liberty.
Open the door,
go to
let them
ATEX.
in. Right.
Yeah, go to tax them. Yeah, I get you.
Right. And so we expand our hours during peak.
Makes sense.
It's 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. And it isn't 100 hours of labor. And our offices do 10% better because over 10 to 15% better, just because we expand our hours and we're available to those customers. Not everyone wants to file their tax return between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m.
Yeah, a lot of people work. They have late shifts,
right.
Nurses, police officers, doctors.
Yeah, exactly.
It's knowing your customer and really understanding your craft.
So those are two different things that we do better. And so they're objective, clear, easy to prove.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I happen to read that you are an avid reader. You've loved reading since you were a kid. And I'm sure, a lot of people say, what's your favorite book? I think that's such a generic question. I prefer to ask it this way. In the first half of your life, I'm sure you read a lot of books. What was your favorite then? And which one would you say is your favorite now towards, now that you're 75?
I started out in love with science fiction.
Okay.
And I read, and mine is the traditional science fiction where aliens are attacking the Earth. That's the kind of stuff I like Star Trek and Star Wars, and the aliens are attacking.
Gotcha.
When it switched to kind of the wizards and goblins and
That lost it.
then I got out of it. But I love my favorite science fiction book, so that it started changing. The authors started getting away from the good old cowboys and Indians, aliens and earthlings. Right? It changed when I was about 13 or somewhere in my low teens. So I got off of science fiction. But my favorite book of all time in science fiction was Dune. Dune.
I was just going to say that was going to be your favorite.
The movies come out. The book is so long; it's like 1,000 pages, and it took Dune 1 and Dune 2, and they didn't even finish the book yet. But there were many sequels after that. The sequels weren't very good; they got worse and worse.
Gotcha.
So the book Dune, I just loved that, and then each sequel, there's about 5 of them. It got worse and worse and worse. So I wouldn't recommend that, but the book was great.
And you're saying that the 2 movies that just came out are only the first book?
Yes.
That is awesome.
And it didn't even finish the first book.
Wow.
So there's probably going to be Dune 3 that will finish the first book and go into the first sequel.
Unreal. That's awesome.
But
I love the movie. And I heard about the book, but I also heard that it was very long. So.
Yeah, very long, very long. And I've read War and Peace, Gone with the Wind. 2,000 pages. But my favorite book in fiction, my favorite author was a guy named Leon Uris, who wrote about history but made it fiction. Okay. So my favorite book is called Exodus. It's about how Israel was remade a company in our country in 49. 1949. So it took us through World War II into the 50s, and the huge odds that they were up against. It's amazing odds that they overcame. So I love fiction that includes history at the same time.
Gotcha. That's very powerful. Involving the story of Exodus, anybody that takes on something like that has to be a very smart individual to take on that. And but on that same topic, how would you say your faith has gotten you where you are today, and God in general?
I've been so blessed that it's amazing how the blessings I have, and different people are given different skills and different. I've just used the skills that I've been given.
Right.
I'm not there isn't anything I did except take the skills that I was given and use them well. And my favorite story in the Bible is the talent story, where God gives each person different talents, and your success is based on obstacles overcome, not heights achieved. Some people cannot. If I was paraplegic or quadriplegic or you're never going to be a New York Yankee
right.
So you have to use the skills that you have to be all you can be. And I've been so blessed that again, I feel that I'm required to. I've lived all this great life, and I'm required to give back.
That's awesome.
It would be so useless if I just decided to go on a cruise around the world for the rest of my life.
It's like your God-given talents were given to you so that you can make an impact, and that's what you're doing best. And then it comes back in the way of blessings, right?
Yep.
Is that kind of how you grew up with, or is something you developed at the time?
No, I learned that. I've always been a grateful person. When I was a child, I didn't really realize it until I was about going into 3rd grade. In my first school, it had multi-floors, so it was like a 3-story school, very old school back in 1954, 55, right? So in a very old school. But then they built a whole new school that was 1 floor. So in my first school, I never saw any disabled children.
Okay.
So I grew up sheltered, right? that you go to school and you see kids and they're all healthy. And
You weren't exposed to.
right, I wasn't exposed to any disabled children. And as soon as I started my new school, like within the first week, I saw the disabled children. And since then, I've never had a bad day because I'm so grateful. I could be blind or deaf or in a wheelchair or dead. I mean, I've just been incredibly grateful. And I try to preach to everyone, if you're alive and healthy and in the United States, you're in the top 1% of the most fortunate people on the planet.
Amen.
But I have 6 children and I can't even convince them of that. Right? I can't even convince them that they're to be grateful. Everyone whines about, we don't have this and we don't have that. But I use different words to describe when people say, how are you? But, I've been awesome and amazing. And lately it's been incredible. And I go to Dunkin' Donut every morning and they call me Mr. Incredible now.
This is what they call you.
Because for the last 6 months when anyone says, how are you doing? And they just do that to be polite, right?
Right.
It's hi. I mean, it's just, they don't really care.
But the consistency of incredible.
I said, right. The first time or two I said that, they said, what? And I said, incredible. And they said, and they began to say, I love that. Now they call me Mr. Incredible. But I am. I go to sleep happy every day. I wake up happy and I'm aggravated all the way in between. And when you have employees and children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and life will beat you down. God humbles you every day.
Right.
But I never have a bad day.
I love that. There's almost a stoic sense of peace when it comes to challenges will come. It's okay. Expect them. Don't be surprised by them. Get back up, right? And constantly be grateful. What do you think is so hard for people to be grateful or to live life like that, especially when you're young? I think when you're young, you kind of struggle with it, and as you get older, you begin to be more grateful for things.
I think it's biblical. I mean, Eve went over and ate that fruit, or gave it to Adam to eat.
Everything changed.
They weren't grateful.
Right. Wow. I what an answer. I do think, and the more I began to read the Bible this year, and I've actually been reading it for 264 straight days. And I will say it's changed my life at 40. I think people talk about following a faith that they have never read about. You maybe read math books or science books more than you've read the one thing that is supposedly guiding your faith. And I kind of felt hypocritical a little bit about it. So I kind of called myself out and began reading it. And my relationship with God has grown much closer because of it. And so as I was listening to you and listening to others, I try to learn from everyone that I meet, younger or older. But as I'm listening to you, you've recalled a couple of Bible stories or things like that. It is one of this one big instruction manual that we were left behind, and we ought to do better at reading it and paying attention to it.
Yeah, it's so hard today because in school, they don't teach the four most important things in life. They don't teach you about God. Who's going to teach you? And they don't teach you about being a significant other, a spouse. They don't teach you how to raise children. And they don't teach you how to become financially independent. And so the four most important things in life, then no one's teaching you.
That's
so
right.
Unless you have really great parents with really, which is rare, rare to have really great parents. And
intentional parents,
Right. And they have to be thoughtful and no one taught them.
Right.
No one taught them. So how are they going to learn to teach you? So they have to, we have to learn in this country by the school of hard knocks. And and that's why the service and the quality of life in our country has declined every year since I can remember.
Right. So we come from tribes, right? And when it was small enough, the child would grow up surrounded by wisdom and knowledge. But the more we've grown and expanded, then the more, dissipated that knowledge and wisdom has become. And it's become more challenging to, this almost like the blind leading the blind for a big chunk of of the population now.
Absolutely. And it's sad to see.
Yeah, it is. But, I am, I consider myself a hopeless optimistic. I tend to romanticize everything. When I hear you talk about, your taste in books, I have this superhero complex. I love, I have a 6 and an 8-year-old, and my wife makes fun of us. When we watch superhero movies, I'm just as into it as they are, right? I have this romantic idea that we should always be optimistic and positive about what's coming in the future, because ultimately, and I got this as an entrepreneur, you're creating the future, right? And if you use your God-given talents, as you mentioned, to create a better future, then you don't have to worry so much.
Yeah, I have the same thing, even maybe worse than you. Of course, we didn't have, when I was a kid, we didn't have all those characters. We just had Superman, maybe. But I always thought I was the good guy in the white hat. And so I sort of lived that in my heart.
Okay.
Without really thinking too much about it. But I've always wanted to be the Superman or the Lone Ranger, or always wanted to be the superhero and do the right thing.
That's cool. I can't, hear you say that and not ask you. You're kind of at the stage where you might be thinking about legacy more than maybe someone like I do. What's the legacy that you would like to be remembered by?
Again, I have my mission statement is my legacy: having fun, improving lives.
Love that. John, I don't know if this is what you expected from this podcast. I know you've done tons of them. I hope this was a good one for you, but I want to thank you for sharing. I want to thank you for your book. I want to thank you for the impact you're making. And hopefully we can do more of this. I really enjoyed talking to you and catching up.
My pleasure.
All right, guys. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. And John, thank you for being here.
Thank you.